in Khartoum and surrounding cities have closed due to heavy shelling. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and yield the call to Dr. Hendo I.L. Henderson, the ad hoc Chief Justice of the Universal World Court. He is Yehoshua Mashiach, Son of Man, the Son of God. Rise and shine, sir.
Rise and shine, how do you hear me?
Quite clearly, sir.
Outstanding. Something I'm going to do right now is, I would say, has been foreign and lost in our ability to be able to express the matter of how everyone is working together on the planet. And I want to quickly do this based upon the fact that a lot of people are thinking that we have moved far from it, but I need them to understand nothing has changed. I'm starting this in the manner of using the 5 divine principles of the universe. We must get the whole world to understand this. These 5 divine principles were not developed, neither were they founded, neither were they invented, neither did anyone come on the planet that did not read these 5 divine principles and one or many of the would-be so-called holy biblical scriptures of the planet. Now, these 5 divine principles, once again, is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we need everyone to understand that there's no one organization or no development of some so-called group of membership come up with these 5 divine principles. They didn't. These 5 divine principles are located in all of the holy scriptures. You can read them just as I just said them in those holy scriptures. You need to understand that they are part of a standard, of a bunch of standards inside of the book, whereby the first standard they begin to talk about is love. And they speak on love extensively. They go from speaking of love in the manner of talking about truth. After talking about the truth, they go to the point of talking about the peace, freedom, and then the justice. So all the scriptures have this exact same standard of speaking about the 5 divine principles and even identifying them to the people, whereby they're exploring the fact that people must come to work, unite, and to share these would-be 5 divine principles in order to save this entire would-be self. I didn't say planet. Because the planet, you've already been given everything there is to save it. And it's also in the book. It lets them know that this earth will endure forever. It never say anything about man. And that's one of the things, the many things that now many of you just keep allowing to elude you. You keep listening to the fact that the earth is going to last, it will endure forever. You keep hearing that there will be a new heaven and a new earth coming down out of the heavens. But you just keep on allowing to elude you the fact that you can be eliminated. Talking about mankind, you can be eliminated based upon the fact that it tells you that in order for man to be able to survive, he must know how to follow the times to even find himself going through evolution, where he will change from one to another with the even species. And knowing that man has come to a point right now where he has evolutionized from a would-be a time before. But right now, he's not doing too good. He's not faring too good in these times that we're going through now, based upon the fact of, once again, allowing greed to become his greatest would-be enemy. Greed. Greed has always found a way into this would-be world in which we live in now, that we call Earth, whereby man has found himself with so much greed, wanting this, wanting that, doing nothing more than killing and pillaging and raping, and going all over the place to destroy, just that he might be able to benefit off the backs of others. This can be the annihilation of man, the destruction of man. It would be, as we would call it, extermination of man, due to the fact that man still again is allowing greed to become his greatest enemy. Now, I'm saying that all to say that man has come to a point of even trying to claim everything as being his own would-be invention or as his own would-be so-called creation, and thereby has placed himself in the hands of the greatest, again, enemy that he could have allowed himself to be placed in, and that's greed. United Nations, welcome to the call. This is your call. Rise and shine. We know that when using the term rise and shine, many have not yet come to realize that this is a call to all of us who are still having to work during the daytime, knowing that man must work while it's day, for when night cometh, no man can work. And according to the time frames in which we all find ourselves living in, working in, we must realize that day one place is a day someplace else, but at the same time, it is also night in other locations. These nights bring us a time where we get to relax, rest, prepare ourselves for the next coming would-be sunshine or the next coming would-be light. And many of the people now on the planet have come to a point, they have placed themselves in a position where they are determined not to work. Even in some of the scriptures, people have not yet come to realize or recognize or even understand them by interpretation, where it says that if one does not work, he does not eat. This working has not a whole lot to do with 8 or 9 to 5 jobs, whereby you find yourself working for someone else's would-be so-called benefit. That's not the work in which it is talking about. The work in which it's talking about is where one must work to be a better person. He must work to be a respected person. He must work to be an honorable person. He must work to be a kind person. He must work to look out for his brothers and his sisters. I'm talking about mankind. And this is the work in which now we look around the universe and we see very little of it, if none whatsoever. Man must work while it's still day, for a night cometh no man can work. He must work for respect, work for honor, work for this care of others, work for this would-be 5 divine principles of the universe, where he will work for the love, the truth, the peace, the freedom, and the justice. And that's for all mankind. Yes, and we continually to bring this to you on a level whereby we all have come together under these 5 divine principles to survive and protect one another, that each one of us must survive. That's one saving himself. Again, the nations, the universe, it will survive, even without mankind. All that will happen is there will be an evolutional change in life, or an evolutional change even in mankind, where he will become another species. We want to believe that that next species that he should become will learn to stay away from greed, or it too will only last for a short period of time. Now, United Nations, as we began to speak to you this Rise and Shine Day, yes, we're watching so much happen on the planet. And I know after listening to our host, we realize that she's sort of like pleading with everyone who is in contempt to what's going on the planet as an overall judgment to save mankind. Right now, she's talking about the grain that is in Ukraine. The grain whereby it's not ran by Ukraine, it just happens to be there. It wasn't planted by Ukraine. No, it wasn't harvested by Ukraine. It was harvested by men and women that would have been more likely classified Russians. Russian Ukrainians, now they want to call them. As if though they stand on a borderline where you have to cross a line between them when you get half Ukrainian and half would-be Russian out of these people. Knowing that their blood will still bleed red, knowing that their blood at the end of the day will still link them to some Russian would-be citizen of the USSR. Stay with me. Everybody. And this is now where the ignorance borders on a line whereby there's not a borderline for it, because it's all over the place. And that's where the United States of America and its ignorance and arrogance come in at. That European world that the United States of America has done nothing more than kept in, if we might say, in circulation, after it should have died back in the would-be so-called first century. After it should have definitely died out by the 17th century, that would-be so-called blood circulation is still on the planet to this day. And by way of the United States of America, the so-called would-be White House, it is boiling to a point of destruction as I speak. The Americans, the Europeans, that again has drawn a flash between their would-be so-called real life and the life in which they so believe that they have created or invented for themselves. Europeans. Because to speak of the United States of America, again, you have either people from Great Britain, you either have people from Europe, which is Germany, or every now and then you will find a Spanish person from Spain that just so happens to be in line with what's going on in America, by way of all of them being somehow connected to what is known as the true indigenous people of that land, known as Indians. Real true Indians, black Indians, as we say again. They were not red Indians there. They came about through what is known as the Chinese, the Japanese, the Scandinavians, and all those that are about. And that's why their faces are red. And you can also see the resemblance of slanted eyes, and you can sometimes find them in darker skin than the others. So all of these things are taking place on a level whereby the ignorance of the United States of America as a place that it has designated itself to be, with no true documentation of where it came from. These documentations will give them an identity that they do not possess, or that they will never, ever possess. An identity. Indexing. They cannot index themselves as being Americans, because to classify themselves as American, they must be part of America. For them, in order to be part of America, they must show some blood, at least resemblance to them, or some blood would be revelations of a relevance to them. And that they will never be able to do, because they were in no bloodline of any America. An America who would have found himself claiming to have somehow conquered half of that would-be world in which now they call America. He himself never fought a battle. He never fought in a war. That was no revolution. That was no, would have been so-called fight for civility. He was not in the Civil War. He was not in the Freedom War. He was not in the Revolutionary War. He never fought any war. Whereby, what would he have conquered? With no battle, with no fight. Answer it precisely right before you. That never took place. But now you would believe that all of the Caucasian and Caucasian people that in America came from America himself. Or you would want to believe that somehow their founding fathers were connected to white boys and white men that would have had a nationality in the area in which they so now reside in, knowing that none of them initially came from that area. Nope, in that area didn't see any white faces for a long time after the first century, believe it or not. But they would want you to believe that they're telling everyone, go back to where you came from, when they're the only people there that did not initially come from that area. And they still, to this day, believe that their parents, their forefathers, somehow fought some war to give the land to them when he himself could not possess it. You would think that a Governor DeSantis would have come from that area. But then again, the darkness of his hair tells him that he did not come from that area. He can't claim to be an Indian. He can't claim 1/4 of being an Indian, no more than he can claim 1/8 of being an Indian, because that's not where he came from. His family didn't come from there. No, what are you talking about? Donald J. Trump has never claimed that he's an Indian, because he already knows that to be from a place in Germany has nothing to do with a would-be Indian and would-be nationality, or even an Indian personality for that reason, or such. I know. When listening to Donald J. Trump, he has developed an accent, if one might say, but it's sort of like an old accent of a monster in which you once upon a time viewed inside of a motion picture. James Cagney and all the rest of them would have spoke with the same type of would-be repetitious method emotions that one known as Donald J. Trump uses, because he was very much caught up in the movie industry of life, whereby it becomes more of an actor than one who is living reality. No, I'm not attacking him. I'm just letting you know that he can never claim being one known as an American based upon the fact that he knows that his heritage comes from Karlstadt would be Germany. He knows that to be from a place in Germany, you cannot claim to be an American citizen. You can claim to have lived there for a long time, but you would still have to look to your blood relatives and where they originally came from. And this is what now gators on a point where the whole would-be white world of Caucasian Caucasians in America are refusing to acknowledge. That's not the area that you came from. You're not from that area. That's why you probably noticed that during those moments when the sun is really truly shining in that area like it normally does, you still get burnt skin. You still find yourself trying to find some way of being able to protect your skin from the manner in which it will be exposed to that particular weather. I know. Because you're used to coming from a place that was far would have been in an area whereby you keep calling it the East, but it's really what we know to be the North. And you're classifying that as being North America, even though it's in the West. Because they would be, that's why you call it Northwest or Northwest. Because you know it's not North. It has nothing to do with North. Because the North is where you came from, a very much cool, colder area where you didn't have to worry about putting on suntan lotion. And you definitely didn't have to worry about having to lie out to make your skin would be a little darker. So when exposed to the sunlight, you wouldn't be in trouble. Now, I'm only giving you the facts. No, I'm not giving you a history class. No, I'm not informing you that you're in the wrong location. I'm giving you facts. You figure out what it means to you. I can assure you that because you didn't come from the land, you won't be able to possess the land. It's in the book. Read the Holy Scripture. It tells you that those that came from the land will possess the land, one way or the other. Even by force. It says they will take it by force. They will possess the land by force. That means they're going to get their land back, even if it comes to the point of force. And it will. It's going to come to force. You know why? Because you got a lot of Caucasian people that cracked at the brain that's not going to want to move out the way, not even realizing that they have the book in their hands telling them that they're going to perish when getting in the way of those that are repossessing their land. It tells them that. They don't even realize that they're going to be fighting against one another, not against those in whom are going to repossess their land. They will kill each other off. Why? Because now they're digging in. They're building fortresses. They're building these would-be forts, if we might call them that, F-O-R-T. They're building forts in the back of their houses, under their would-be so-called floorboards in their house. They're building fortresses underneath it, or they're going to their would-be neighborhood home depot, buying bricks and cement, building these little would-be concrete fortresses in the back of their houses under their floorboards. We're already aware of it. You have to remember, those little things you call tiny satellites are plastering pictures all over the world and all over the media, social media and other nations. They're watching you build these little concrete fortresses all in the back of your would-be yards, you call it, but it's not even your land at all. But they're watching you. They're watching you build these things you keep calling storm shelters. But they know for a fact storm shelters does not need all that ammo. Storm shelters does not need all of those weapons. Storm shelters does not need all of the things in which you're placing in those storm shelters is not needed for a storm. And the satellites are giving you away. The satellites are telling you everything. Those little drones that you hear but you cannot see, they're the ones that are now scoping your areas out. And it's even informing your so-called government that you're doing it. I know. United Nations, I'm saying this because it's not just happening in the United States of America, but it's happening in every nation. Every nation. Right now in Africa, they would call it South Africa. They would tell you that they have found where there's nothing more than nuclear sites all over Africa. And it wasn't put there by the Africans. We must openly express that so that the world will know that, no, the Africans, whether they be South Africans or North Africans, whether they be Eastern Africans or Western Africans, are not the ones that put those nuclear would-be facilities there. See, they have had nations like Great Britain. They have had nations like the United States of America. They have had nations like France and nations like Canada that have went there on some would-be so-called peacekeeping mission. And while they were there on a peacekeeping mission, they found those would-be so-called local home depots, and they began to build those same would-be so-called brick storm shelters, where they have been buying up the little small bricks, buying up the cement, buying up all the things that it takes to put between the bricks like mortar. This mortar has been nothing more than something placing the bricks together to build this little brick fortress or fort, where they will be able to house nothing more than nuclear chemicals. And as we know, they're very industrious when it comes down to building weaponry. When it comes down to finding locations to hide weaponry, they have been very industrious. And thereby, they're all over the universe. They built these fortresses all the way to what will be classified as Antarctica, down in the snowy area due to the fact they realize that they can survive much better in the cold than they can in the heat. And they would rather fight the war in a much colder area, a much more cooler climate, than having to fight it in some place in Africa where they deem that the equator is closest to, because it kind of puts them in a point where even if they don't find themselves throwing up enough suntan lotion, they will find themselves still burning, melting perhaps. So thereby they would rather fight it in the Balkans. They would rather fight it in what is known as Afghanistan, knowing that it's too hot there, but they would rather pull it all the way down to Antarctica. And that's where they want to fight. But they have been beat to that location of being able to stake it out as a headquarters. And we have to be honest that Russia was very much on their game back during that time frame, that they was realizing that this would be a more ideal area of fighting a war. And Russia began to do nothing more than, if we might say, headquarterize all of the would-be area of what is known to the world as the Antarctic. But we already know about the CP point. We showed that to you back in 2013, back in 2000, we were showing you where all of the nations were building these classified CP points. No, we're not giving up any military secrets. Everyone on the planet knows that CP stands for control point. You got them. Even coming into your border areas, they're called CP points. They're called control points. That means that everything on the other side or outside of the CP point is to be controlled. No one is to be able to cross over another border. No one is to be able to slash through any border. No one is to be able to go around any border. That's why they set up CP points called control points. Giving you facts, because now World War III is already happening as we so speak, and it's going to go out of control. Why? Because the commanders that are under control will be out of control. Again, the commanders now that are in control will go out of control, because they will begin to realize that as they move to these cold areas, once again, these cold areas, based upon Yah Allah, God of the universe, is going to change, a real change. those areas that are now cold are going to heat up, and thereby they're going to find themselves fighting from a location where they so found themselves trying to avert or find themselves getting away from to begin with. How is that for a turn of events? Yes. Now, as the Antarctic began to melt, the water is flowing downstream, and at the same time, on the corner edge of it, they find it flowing upstream, and no one can explain it. Only an act of the angels can explain that, because they know God and they know him firsthand. They know how he operates. So as the water flows upstream rather than downstream, you are going to find that as it began to melt, it will, yes, once again begin to fill the oceans and the seas and even the fresh lakes in America, whether they be man-made or girl-made. They are going to find themselves filling up with water. This water is going to flood most of the nation, which the people are going to flee, beginning to running in another direction, not realizing that you've already been given the promise of God, of Yahweh, that he was not going to destroy you by this water flood or a flood of water. However, for those of you that find yourself running from the water, you won't have to run for it, because coming to meet you from the other direction will be nothing more than fires. Fires that will be able to put the water to a position of becoming nothing more than a dry substance lying on the ground. It will begin to fry through the fire. The fire will meet the water. The fire will be much more intense than the water could ever imagine, which the water will begin to dry in its footsteps. Just giving you the fact. Don't start screaming about being doomed. You're dooming yourself. I've already told you. The land is going to survive. There will be a new heaven and a new earth coming down out of the heavens from Yahweh, from God. But you won't be coming down again. You better believe it. Because you're dooming yourself with ignorance and arrogance. And you're refusing to accept the messenger. The messenger has brought you the message, and you are still refusing. But you're also wanting to attack the messenger rather than the message. The message is for you to find some way to protect yourself with a warning. But you would rather attack the messenger, not realizing that if you attack the messenger, he's only going to be returning again with even a greater call to bring you more of the message in which you're receiving now. You call it doom. He called it boom, because you won't be around much longer after you attack him. The messenger. Who cares who the messenger is? I can assure you that the messenger is a nobody, trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. That's who the messenger is. You can call him Obadiah. You can call him Dr. Henderson. You can call him whatever you want to call him. It's your call. I know. Yeah, he can hear some of you even calling him that mother name. I know. You're not calling him one of those with the LGBTQ members, but you are calling him a mother. But it's okay. He understands. It's not going to change the reality of the message. Neither is it going to change the outcome of the message. Let's focus. Let's keep focused, because right now, as we so speak, the world is still turning on a reverse axle. That reverse axle is going to begin to speed up. No, it will not take you back in time, but I can assure you that your future is going to be a serious rough ride, a very rough ride. Yes. Again, I say the areas which once was cold will become hotter. Those areas that was once hot will become very cold. Yes, the people will succumb to it because, I don't know if you've ever lived in a very, very warm environment. A very, very warm environment is those of you that have normally had temperatures 80, 90 consecutive degrees, consecutive years, consecutive days. And all of a sudden you get a day that's no more than 50 degrees for someone. That would at least be half of 100 Fahrenheit. And you will find those people wearing sweaters, wearing jackets. You will see them shaking. You will hear their teeth chattering. Why? Because 50 degrees for someone who is used to 80 or above degrees consecutively all the time is very cold. It's kind of too cold for them. They're wearing hoodies and sweaters and jackets. It's only 50 degrees, which in other areas where they're normally used to 30 below, for them to get a day like 50 degrees, they're hot. They're smoking hot. They're walking around in nothing more than flip-flops, shorts, and tank tops. God Almighty. Because 50 for them is just too warm. They're used to being 30 and below consecutively all the time, round and around the clock. So they're used to wearing Eskimo jackets, yes, with Eskimo pants. And they're even walking around with what they call the boots that are insulated boots. So they're used to that. But for them to have a 50-degree weather, they start taking all that stuff off. It's just too hot for them. And they find themselves again, as I say, in